Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of the Earth Defense Station, her hands gripping the metal rail as she watched the holographic display. The blue light from the screens painted her face in cold shadows. Around her, officers moved with quick steps, their voices low but urgent. Something was very wrong. The emergency signal had come in 3 hours ago. It was from the human colony on Kepler 442b, one of their newest settlements. The message was short and filled with static, but the words were clear enough to make Sarah's blood run cold. The colony was under attack, not by pirates or some unknown alien threat, but by the Galactic Council's own peacekeeping fleet. Dr. Marcus Webb, humanity's chief representative to the Galactic Council, rushed into the command center. His usually neat hair was messy, and his formal clothes were wrinkled. He carried a datapad in his shaking hands. Sarah had never seen him look so frightened. "Admiral, you need to see this," Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper. He handed her the datapad. "We intercepted this transmission from the Council fleet 30 minutes ago." Sarah took the device and read the message. Her face grew pale as she understood what she was reading. It was a military order, coded in the Council's standard format. The order was simple and terrible. Execute Protocol Omega on all human settlements in the Outer Rim. Complete sterilization was authorized. Sterilization, Sarah repeated the word slowly. "They mean to kill everyone." Marcus nodded, his hands shaking. "Every man, woman, and child in 3 star systems. They're calling it a medical emergency. They claim there's a plague spreading from human colonies that could destroy all life in the galaxy." Sarah looked back at the holographic display. Red dots marked the positions of human colonies across space. One by one, those dots were turning black. Each black dot meant another colony had gone silent, another million human lives lost. "How many colonies have we lost contact with?" Sarah asked Lieutenant Torres, her communications officer. 14 confirmed, Admiral. 3 more stopped responding in the last hour. Torres's voice was steady, but Sarah could see the anger in her eyes. Total population. Estimated at 4.7 billion people. The number hit Sarah like a physical blow. 4.7 billion people gone, murdered by the aliens they had trusted. The humans had joined the Galactic Council 50 years ago, believing they were becoming part of a peaceful alliance of worlds. They had been wrong. Dr. Webb activated another screen, showing intercepted communications between Council ships. The voices were not human, speaking in the clicking language of the Zephyrians and the buzzing tones of the collective. But the translation software made their words clear. "The human threat has been contained in sectors 7 through 9, said a Zephyrian commander. Their military technology was more advanced than expected, but they were unprepared for our surprise attack." "Excellent," replied a voice from the collective hive mind. The Council was wise to act before the humans could spread their influence further. They were becoming too strong, too independent. Sarah felt a cold rage building in her chest. This had nothing to do with a plague. The Council had attacked human colonies because they were afraid. Afraid of what humanity might become. Afraid of losing their control over the galaxy. "Admiral," came another voice from across the command center. It was Captain Rodriguez from the Intelligence Division. She was holding another datapad, but this one was glowing with urgent red warnings. "I'm detecting Council fleet movements toward the Sol system. They're coming for Earth." Sarah turned to look at the tactical display showing their home system. Earth sat at the center, peaceful and unaware of the storm coming toward it. The moon Luna orbited nearby, and beyond that were the mining stations on Mars and the asteroid belt. It all looked so normal, so safe. "How long until they arrive?" Sarah asked. "Based on their current speed, 18 hours, Captain Rodriguez replied. "They're bringing a massive fleet, Admiral. At least 300 ships, including their newest dreadnoughts." Dr. Webb stepped forward, his fear replaced by determination. "Sarah, we need to warn Earth. We need to evacuate as many people as possible." Sarah looked at him with sad eyes. "Marcus, there are 8 billion people on Earth. Even if we had 1,000 ships, we couldn't evacuate them all in 18 hours. The command center fell silent except for the soft humming of computers and the distant sound of air circulation systems. Everyone knew what this meant. The Council expected to find a broken, defenseless humanity, mourning their lost colonies. They expected Earth to surrender without a fight. Sarah walked to the main communications console. Her fingers moved across the control panel with practiced ease. She opened a direct channel to the deepest levels of Luna's military complex, areas that most people didn't even know existed. "This is Admiral Chen," she said into the microphone. Authorization code Alpha 77 Omega. I am implementing the Prometheus protocol. Repeat, Prometheus protocol is now active. Dr. Webb looked confused. Sarah, what is the Prometheus protocol? Sarah turned to face him, and for the first time since the crisis began, she smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator who had just caught the scent of prey. Marcus, do you remember what you told the council 3 years ago during the trade negotiations, when they tried to force us to give up our military research? Marcus thought for a moment, then nodded. I told them that humanity had always been a peaceful species, but that we had learned from history. I said we would never again be caught unprepared for war. That's right, Sarah said, watching as new displays activated around the command center. Hidden cameras throughout the solar system came online, showing images that should have been impossible. Massive shipyards that had been invisible moments before now appeared on the screens, filled with ships that looked nothing like the vessels humanity was supposed to have. For 50 years, the Council thought they knew everything about human military capability. Sarah continued. They were wrong. The ships they destroyed, the weapons they faced at our colonies, those were just our public military. The real human fleet has been building in secret since the day we joined the Council. Dr. Webb stared at the screens in amazement. He saw ships that seemed to bend light around them, weapons that glowed with energy he didn't recognize, and soldiers in armor that looked more like something from a science fiction movie than real military equipment. How is this possible? He whispered. Every diplomatic mission we sent to Council worlds, every cultural exchange, every peaceful trade agreement, Sarah explained, was also an intelligence-gathering operation. We learned everything about their technology, their military tactics, their weaknesses, and we prepared for the day they would show their true colors. She activated another communication channel. This is Admiral Chen to all Prometheus units. Phase 1 is complete. The enemy has revealed themselves. Begin Phase 2 operations immediately. Across the solar system, things that had looked like asteroids suddenly moved. Space stations that had appeared to be simple research facilities opened hidden weapon ports. Ships that had been disguised as cargo haulers shed their fake hulls to reveal sleek warships underneath. The Council thinks they're hunting sheep, Sarah said, watching as the displays showed human forces moving into position. They're about to learn they're hunting wolves. Dr. Webb looked at all the activity on the screens, then back at Sarah. What about the colonies they destroyed? What about the billions of people they murdered? Sarah's smile faded, replaced by an expression of cold determination. They will pay for every single life, Marcus. The Council wanted to see what humanity becomes when they threaten our children. They're about to find out. She turned to address the entire command center. Attention all personnel. As of this moment, humanity is at war with the Galactic Council. Our enemies believe they have struck the killing blow against our species. They believe we are weak and broken. They are wrong. She paused, looking around at the faces of her officers. She saw anger, determination, and something else. She saw the same cold fury that was burning in her own heart. Send a message to the Council fleet approaching Earth, Sarah commanded. Tell them this, you wanted to see monsters. You're about to meet them. Deep beneath the surface of Luna, in chambers that officially did not exist, Admiral Sarah Chen placed her hand on the biometric scanner. The device hummed softly as it read her palm print, retinal pattern, and DNA signature. Around her, 3 other figures did the same. General Morrison from the Army, Admiral Hayes from the Navy, and General Kim from the Space Marines, the 4 highest-ranking military officers in human space, gathered for a moment that would change the galaxy forever. Prometheus protocol activation requires unanimous consent, the computer announced in a calm female voice. Please state your authorization. Admiral Sarah Chen, Space Defense Command. Authorization Alpha 77 Omega. I consent to full activation. General David Morrison, Earth Defense Army. Authorization Beta 92 Delta. I consent to full activation. Admiral Rebecca Hayes, Solar Navy. Authorization Gamma 35 Charlie. I consent to full activation. General Lisa Kim, Orbital Marines. Authorization Delta 88 Alpha. I consent to full activation. The computer was silent for several seconds. Then red lights throughout the chamber turned green. Prometheus protocol is now fully active. All hidden assets are authorized for immediate deployment. Far above them, throughout the solar system, Machines that had been waiting for 50 years began to wake up. In the asteroid belt, mining stations that had been quietly collecting rocks suddenly revealed their true purpose. Hidden beneath their simple outer shells were the most advanced shipyards humanity had ever built. Captain Rodriguez watched from her position in the intelligence center as the first ships began emerging from their hiding places. They were nothing like the vessels the Galactic Council expected humans to have. These ships moved in ways that violated known physics, turning invisible to sensors and slipping through space like ghosts. The UES Retribution hung in space near Jupiter, looking like an ordinary heavy cruiser. Captain Martinez had commanded her for 3 years, but today was the first time she would see what her ship could really do. The activation signal reached them just as the artificial intelligence Ares came online. "Captain," Ares said, its voice echoing through the bridge. "All concealed systems are now operational. Stealth drive is online. Quantum weapons are armed. Phase technology is ready for deployment." Martinez looked at the tactical display showing her ship's true capabilities. The Retribution wasn't just a cruiser. It was a weapon of war that could phase through solid matter, fire bullets that aged their targets to death, and move through dimensions that normal space didn't even know existed. "How long have these systems been installed?" Martinez asked her engineering officer. "Since the ship was built, Captain," Lieutenant Chen replied. "Every human ship constructed in the last 30 years has hidden systems like these. The Council never knew what they were really looking at." Throughout human space, similar scenes were playing out. Merchant vessels revealed themselves to be warships. Research stations opened weapon ports that had been disguised as scientific equipment. Peaceful exploration ships dropped their fake hulls to show the killing machines underneath. On the space station Olympus orbiting Earth, Ambassador Park received a coded message that she had hoped never to see. For 20 years, she had served as humanity's cultural representative to visiting alien dignitaries. She had hosted dinner, parties, organized art exhibitions, and smiled politely while council members spoke about human inferiority. Now she walked through the station's corridors with a different purpose. Hidden throughout Olympus were weapons and equipment that had been smuggled aboard over the course of decades. Every cultural artifact, every piece of art, every diplomatic gift had been carefully chosen to serve a dual purpose. "Computer, activate Protocol 7, Park said as she entered her private office. The walls of her office suddenly became transparent, revealing a command center that had been hidden behind holographic projectors. Screens showed the positions of every Council military asset within 50 light-years of Earth. Communication equipment that could reach human agents throughout the galaxy hummed to life. "Ambassador Park to all deep cover operatives," she spoke into her headset. "Operation Lazarus is now active. Begin Phase 2 infiltration procedures." Across the galaxy, humans who had spent years living among alien populations received the signal. Dr. Sarah Kim, who had worked as a medical researcher on the Zephyrian homeworld for 15 years, calmly walked to her laboratory's emergency supplies. Hidden inside what appeared to be medical equipment were weapons and tools that would help her complete her real mission. Professor James Liu, who taught human history at the collective's main university, checked his watch and nodded to his assistant. It was time to show his alien students what human history had really taught their species about warfare. Trade Representative Maria Santos, who had negotiated commercial agreements with dozens of council worlds, activated the hidden communication device in her office. The time for trade negotiations was over. Now it was time for war. Back in the Sol system, the changes were becoming impossible to hide. Ships that had been disguised as space debris for decades suddenly powered up and revealed themselves. The HFY asteroid belt, which the Council had always seen as a simple mining operation, was actually the largest military shipyard in known space. Dr. Webb watched the displays in amazement as more and more ships appeared on the screens. "How many vessels do we actually have?" Admiral Chen smiled grimly. "The Council thinks humanity has maybe 200 military ships. They're about to discover we have over 3,000. And every one of them is equipped with technology they've never seen before." The first test came when a Council scout ship approached the edge of the solar system. It was a small vessel, sent ahead of the main fleet to gather intelligence about Earth's defenses. The ship's crew expected to see a few human patrol boats and maybe some orbital weapons platforms. Instead, they found empty space. "This is strange," the Zephyrian captain said to his crew. "Intelligence reports indicated significant human military presence in this system. I'm reading almost nothing on sensors." What the captain didn't know was that 3 human ships were within weapons range, completely invisible to his technology. The UES Shadow hung directly above his vessel, its phase cloak making it undetectable. The UES Ghost had positioned itself below, while the UES Spectre approached from the side. "Admiral, the scout ship is scanning actively," Captain Thompson reported from the Shadow. "Should we eliminate it?" "Negative," Admiral Chen replied from the command center. "Let them see what we want them to see. Activate the decoy fleet." Suddenly, the Council scout ship's sensors detected exactly what they expected to find. A small fleet of human ships, outdated and poorly positioned. Orbital defense platforms that looked impressive, but were obviously no match for a modern Council fleet. The Zephyrian captain smiled with satisfaction. "Excellent. The humans are exactly as weak as intelligence predicted. Send this data to the main fleet and recommend immediate attack." As the scout ship departed, Captain Thompson shook his head. "Admiral, are you sure about letting them go? They'll tell the Council fleet that we're defenseless." "That's exactly what I want them to think, Captain," Sarah replied. "The Council is coming here expecting to find broken, defenseless humans. We're going to give them exactly what they expect to see, right up until the moment we destroy them." On Earth, emergency broadcasts began playing on every communication network. The messages told the population that hostile alien forces were approaching, and that everyone should remain calm and follow emergency procedures. What the broadcasts didn't mention was that those emergency procedures had been carefully designed over many years to move civilians away from military targets. President Morrison addressed the world from the Situation Room beneath the White House. "My fellow humans, today we face the greatest threat in our history. The Galactic Council has revealed its true nature by attacking our colonies and murdering billions of our people. They come to Earth expecting to find us weak and helpless. They are wrong." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "For 50 years we have prepared for this day. We have built weapons they cannot imagine, ships they cannot detect, and strategies they cannot counter. Today, the galaxy will learn what happens when you threaten humanity's children." In the depths of Luna's military complex, Admiral Chen made one final check of their preparations. Every hidden asset was now online. Every secret weapon was armed. Every human agent throughout the galaxy was in position. "Dr. Webb," she said, to the diplomat who was still staring at the tactical displays in wonder, "I need you to send one final message to the Galactic Council." "What should it say?" Webb asked. "Tell them this," Sarah replied, her voice cold as space itself. "You forced us to become what you feared most. You gave us no choice but to become monsters. Now you will learn why Earth's predators ruled their world long before they reached for the stars." She turned to face the main display, which showed the approaching Council fleet. 300 ships armed with the most powerful weapons in the galaxy, coming to destroy what they thought was a defensible human civilization. "Let them come," Admiral Chen said quietly. "They want to see what humanity becomes when we're pushed too far. It's time to show them." The Galactic Council's Grand Fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, like a swarm of angry metal insects. 300 ships spread across space in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the advanced alloys and energy shields that had made them masters of the galaxy for 1,000 years. High Admiral Zextar of the Zephyrian Empire stood on the bridge of the flagship, Eternal Crystal, his 4 crystalline eyes reflecting the blue glow of the tactical displays. Around him, officers from 6 different species worked at their stations with the confidence of predators who had never known defeat. "Report," Zextar commanded, his voice echoing with the harmonic tones that all Zephyrians use for formal speech. "Long range. Sensors confirm human military presence throughout the system," reported Commander Vithal from the sensor station. "However, their fleet appears to be smaller than expected. I count approximately 40 vessels, mostly older classes." Zextar examined the tactical display with satisfaction. The humans had indeed positioned their ships exactly where Council intelligence had predicted they would. Earth's orbital defenses looked impressive to untrained eyes, but any competent military officer could see they were outdated and poorly positioned. "Curious," said Mind Node 7 of the collective, its synthetic voice emanating from the communication system. The collective didn't use individual bodies for ship command, instead projecting their hive consciousness through advanced computer systems. "Our intelligence indicated the humans possessed greater military capability. Perhaps their colonies fought harder than expected," suggested General Mordak of the hegemony, his scaled face twisted into what passed for a smile among his species. "These may be all the ships they have left." Zextar nodded approvingly. "Excellent. The Council was wise to act quickly. If we had waited, the humans might have had time to build a more significant defense." What none of them knew was that at that very moment, 47 human ships hung in space around their fleet, completely invisible to Council sensors. The UES Prometheus, Admiral Chen's flagship, was positioned directly above the Eternal Crystal, close enough that her crew could see individual windows on the alien vessel. "Admiral," whispered Captain Torres from the sensor station, "we're reading their communications. They think they're hunting a broken enemy." Admiral Chen watched the Council fleet through her ship's advanced sensors. She could see the alien crews moving about their duties with casual confidence. They were not even bothering to maintain full battle readiness. They expected this to be a simple execution, not a real fight. "Let them keep thinking that," Chen replied softly. "Signal all ships. Phase 1 complete. Prepare for Phase 2. On the bridge of the UES Retribution, Captain Martinez checked her weapon systems one final time. The ship's quantum torpedoes were armed and ready, their warheads containing technology that could age a starship's hull to dust in seconds. The gravitic cannons were charged, capable of creating tiny black holes that would tear enemy vessels apart from the inside. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Santos from the tactical station, "the Council fleet is moving into attack formation. They're preparing to bombard Earth's orbital facilities." Martinez nodded grimly. "Ares, are all stealth systems operating normally?" "Affirmative, Captain," the AI replied. "We remain completely undetectable to Council sensors. I am also picking up quantum entanglement signals from other human vessels. We are fully coordinated for the attack." Throughout the human fleet, similar preparations were taking place. Ships that the Council couldn't see were moving into perfect attack positions. Weapons that violated known physics were being armed. Soldiers wearing armor that could phase between dimensions checked their equipment one final time. "Hi, Admiral," called out the communications officer aboard the Eternal Crystal. "We're receiving a transmission from Earth." "Put it on screen," Zextar ordered. The main display showed Dr. Marcus Webb standing in what appeared to be a hastily constructed command bunker. His clothes were dirty and his hair was messy, giving him the appearance of a man who had been running from place to place in panic. "This is Dr. Marcus Webb, speaking for the human government," he said, his voice shaking with what sounded like fear. We know why you're here. We've seen what happened to our colonies. Please, we're prepared to surrender unconditionally. We just want to avoid any more bloodshed." Zextar felt a surge of satisfaction. "Humans, you have been found guilty of posing a threat to galactic stability. Your species will be relocated to reservation worlds where you can be properly supervised." "We understand," Webb replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "We're powering down our weapons and ordering all ships to surrender. Please just give us time to prepare the civilian population for evacuation." "You have 30 minutes," Zextar announced. "Any ship that attempts to leave the system will be destroyed." The transmission ended and the bridge of the Eternal Crystal erupted in satisfied murmurs. The humans were surrendering without a fight, exactly as the Council had hoped. It would be a clean victory with minimal casualties on their side. What they didn't see was Dr. Webb smiling as the transmission ended. He was standing not in a bunker on Earth, but in the command center of Luna's military complex. The dirt on his clothes was makeup, applied by the station's intelligence team. The fear in his voice was completely fake. "Excellent performance, Doctor," Admiral Chen said as she watched the Council fleet begin moving into their final attack positions. "They believe completely that we're broken and helpless." "It wasn't hard," Webb replied, straightening his tie. "They see exactly what they expect to see. A primitive species that got in over their head." Admiral Chen activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen. The enemy has moved into optimal position. They are confident in their victory and unprepared for real combat. Remember, we are not here to defeat them. We are here to send a message to the entire galaxy. She paused, watching as the council ships moved closer to Earth. Today, the galaxy learns what happens when you threaten human children. Today they learn what we really are. Begin the hunt. The first sign that something was wrong came when High Admiral Zextar noticed that several of his ships were reporting sensor malfunctions. Commander Vithal, what is the status of our sensor array? All systems are functioning normally, High Admiral, Vithal replied, confused. But 6 ships are reporting phantom contacts that appear and disappear randomly. Before Zextar could respond, space around the Council fleet suddenly erupted with weapons fire. Beams of energy that seemed to bend reality itself struck the Eternal Crystal's shields, causing them to flicker and spark. Battle stations, Zextar roared, but his words were lost in the chaos as alarms began blaring throughout the ship. On the tactical display, enemy contacts were appearing everywhere. Ships that had been invisible moments before were now fully visible, surrounding the Council fleet in a perfect sphere of destruction. But these weren't the outdated human vessels the Council had expected to fight. These ships moved like living things, twisting through space in ways that violated basic physics. They fired weapons that seemed to ignore energy shields entirely, striking directly at the hull beneath. Some of the human vessels appeared to be firing projectiles that aged their targets, causing brand new warships to suddenly develop the metal fatigue of ships that had been in service for centuries. Impossible, shouted Mind Node 7. Human technology cannot produce these effects. The UES Retribution phased directly through the shields of a Council destroyer, appearing inside the enemy vessel's bridge. The alien crew stared in shock as armed humans in black armor materialized around them, moving through solid bulkheads as if they were made of air. Surrender your ship, Captain Martinez announced through her armor's speakers, her voice artificially modified to sound inhuman and terrifying. Resistance is futile. The enemy captain, a lizard-like creature from the hegemony, reached for his sidearm. He never had the chance to draw it. Martinez moved faster than the alien's eyes could follow, her phase-enhanced reflexes allowing her to disarm him before he could complete the motion. Your mistake, she said calmly, was thinking we were the same species you met 50 years ago. Throughout the battle zone, similar scenes were playing out. Human boarding parties were materializing inside Council ships, appearing through solid walls and overwhelming crews that had no idea how to fight enemies who could walk through matter. The aliens' advanced weapons were useless against opponents who could simply phase out of the way of incoming fire. On the Eternal Crystal, Zextar watched his fleet being systematically destroyed by an enemy that shouldn't have existed. Ships that had ruled the galaxy for centuries were being torn apart by weapons that seemed to come from nightmares. How are they doing this? He demanded, his crystalline voice cracking with stress. Our intelligence said humans were barely beyond chemical rockets. High Admiral, reported the communications officer, his voice filled with panic. I'm intercepting human military communications. They're not speaking any known human language. It's like they've evolved into something else entirely. What the officer was hearing was actually standard human military code, but it had been designed specifically to sound alien and frightening to Council species. Every aspect of humanity's military development had been planned with psychological warfare in mind. 6 weeks after the destruction of the Council fleet at Earth, the galaxy was learning what it meant to be hunted by humans. What had started as an attack on human colonies had become something far worse for the Galactic Council. A war against an enemy that seemed to appear from nowhere and strike without warning. Captain Elena Martinez commanded Ghost Squadron, a unit of 12 ships that officially did not exist. For 3 weeks they had been hunting Council targets throughout the Zephyrian Empire, appearing from the darkness between stars to destroy military installations and capture key personnel. Captain, we're approaching the Zephyrian forward base at Kepler 438, reported Lieutenant Santos from the navigation station. Intelligence reports indicate they're using it as a staging area for attacks on human refugee ships. Martinez nodded grimly. The Council had declared all human ships to be legitimate military targets, which meant they were attacking civilian vessels trying to escape the war zones. It was exactly the kind of behavior that made this war personal for every human in the fleet. Ares, what's our stealth status? Martinez asked the ship's AI. Full phase cloak is active, Captain, Ares replied. We are currently traveling through dark matter space. The enemy cannot detect us through any known means. Dark matter space was humanity's greatest secret, a dimension that existed alongside normal space, but remained invisible to conventional sensors. Human ships could slip through this parallel realm, appearing anywhere in the galaxy without warning. It was technology that the Council couldn't understand, much less counter. "Signal the squadron," Martinez ordered. "We're going in." The 12 ships of Ghost Squadron materialized from dark matter space directly inside the Zephyrian base's defensive perimeter. The aliens had no warning, no time to raise shields or charge weapons. One moment their base was secure, the next moment it was under attack by enemies who seemed to be made of living shadow. The base commander, a Zephyrian named Veltar, watched in horror as human ships phased through his station's armor as if it were made of air. These weren't normal weapons. The humans were firing something that aged metal and electronics, causing brand new equipment to rust and fail in seconds. "All units, emergency response," Veltar broadcast to his fleet. "We are under attack by human phase ships." But when his pilots tried to launch their fighters, they discovered that their hangar doors wouldn't open. Human boarding teams had already infiltrated the station, moving through solid walls to disable critical systems. The Zephyrians found themselves fighting enemies who could walk through their defensive positions and appear behind their lines without warning. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Park led the boarding operation, her black armor allowing her to phase through the station's bulkheads at will. Her team moved through the Zephyrian base like ghosts, stunning guards and planting charges with surgical precision. "Target acquired," Park reported as she found the base's central computer core. "Beginning data extraction." The information they gathered would be priceless. Not just military intelligence, but communications between Council worlds, diplomatic messages, and most importantly, the locations of Council leadership. Humanity was building a target list, and every raid added more names to it. 3 star systems away, another human operation was taking place. The UES Shadowhawk had infiltrated the Collective's main research facility on Titan Prime, where the hive mind species conducted their most sensitive experiments. Commander David Kim led a team of human specialists deep into the facility's core, where the Collective stored their group consciousness in massive computer arrays. What they found there horrified them. Experiments on captured human civilians, attempts to study human neural patterns and turn them into controllable drones. "My God," whispered Dr. Lisa Chen, the team's science officer. "They've been trying to turn humans into part of their hive mind." Kim activated his communication system. "Command, this is Shadowhawk. We've found evidence of war crimes. The Collective has been experimenting on human prisoners." Admiral Chen's voice came back immediately. "Understood, Shadowhawk. Download all data and proceed with contamination protocol." The contamination protocol was something the Collective had never encountered before. Human specialists had developed a kind of computer virus specifically designed to attack hive mind consciousness. When they introduced it into the Collective's systems, it began spreading like a plague through their shared thoughts. Individual nodes of the Collective suddenly found themselves thinking independently for the first time in their lives. The virus didn't just disrupt their communication, it gave them individuality, free will, and the ability to question the hive mind's decisions. Within hours, civil war broke out across Collective space as newly independent nodes began refusing orders from the central consciousness. The species that had been unified for thousands of years was suddenly fighting itself. "Contamination protocol successful," Kim reported as his team prepared to leave. The Collective is experiencing massive internal conflict. Meanwhile, in the diplomatic sectors of Council space, Ambassador Lisa Park was conducting a very different kind of warfare. For 20 years, she had built relationships with alien officials, attending their parties and learning their secrets. Now she was using those relationships to tear the Council apart from within. "Ambassador Telvan," she said sweetly to the hegemony representative as they sat in her luxurious office, "I think there's something you should know about the Zephyrian Empire's true intentions for this war." Telvan, a large reptilian creature, leaned forward with interest. The hegemony had always been suspicious of Zephyrian ambitions, and Park knew exactly how to feed those suspicions. According to intercepted communications, Park continued, activating a holographic display, the Zephyrians are planning to claim all former human territory for themselves once the war is over. The communications were real, but they had been carefully edited by human intelligence to make them sound more threatening than they actually were. Park had been planting similar disinformation throughout Council space. turning allies against each other and making them question their cooperation. This is concerning, Telvan admitted, studying the false evidence. The hegemony was promised equal distribution of human worlds. I thought you should know, Park said sympathetically. After all, when this war is over, someone needs to ensure that the galaxy is governed fairly. It was a masterpiece of manipulation. Park was simultaneously gathering intelligence, spreading disinformation, and recruiting potential allies among the Council species. Some aliens were beginning to wonder if humanity might actually be a better partner than their current allies. Back in human space, Admiral Chen was coordinating the largest military operation in human history. The war had spread to 47 star systems, and human forces were striking targets throughout the galaxy. What made it even more effective was that the Council had no idea how many ships humanity actually possessed. Status report, Chen requested as she reviewed the tactical displays in Luna Command. Operation Ghost Dance is proceeding ahead of schedule, reported Captain Torres. 16 Council military installations have been neutralized in the past week. Ghost Squadron is currently investigating a collective research facility on Titan Prime. What about Operation Prometheus Fire? Chen asked. Phase operations are active in 12 systems, Torres replied. Our ships are materializing inside enemy facilities, conducting surgical strikes and disappearing before the Council can respond. Enemy morale is collapsing throughout their military. Chen smiled with satisfaction. The psychological aspect of their campaign was working perfectly. Council forces never knew when or where humans would appear next. Their soldiers were seeing enemies who could walk through walls, weapons that violated physics, and ships that traveled through dimensions that shouldn't exist. Admiral, called out Dr. Webb from his position at the intelligence station, we're receiving reports from our deep cover agents throughout Council space. The alien populations are beginning to panic. Some worlds are requesting separate peace negotiations. Excellent, Chen replied. Signal our agents to begin Phase 3 operations. It's time to offer the Council worlds a choice. Phase 3 was perhaps the most audacious part of humanity's plan. Instead of simply destroying the Council, they were going to offer individual worlds the opportunity to surrender and join a new galactic government under human leadership. The message was simple and terrifying. Surrender now and be treated fairly. Or continue fighting and face the same fate as the Council's military forces. But what made the offer especially effective was that humans were demonstrating their ability to strike anywhere, anytime without warning. On the Zephyrian homeworld, High Counselor Zexamar received a communication that made his crystalline blood run cold. A human ship had appeared in orbit around their planet, completely undetected by their most advanced sensors. It had broadcast a single message before disappearing back into the darkness between stars. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Defense Fleet. The message said, your military attacked our children. Your fleets murdered billions of innocent people. You declared war on humanity because you feared what we might become. 6 months after the Council's betrayal, the galaxy had been transformed. The great powers that had ruled space for 1,000 years now knelt in chains aboard the human flagship UES Justice, waiting to learn their fate from the species they had tried to exterminate. Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the assembled Council leadership in the ship's main courtroom, her black uniform displaying the insignia of her new rank, Supreme Admiral of Human Space. Around her, armed guards in phase-capable armor ensured that the alien prisoners remained secure. High Admiral Zextar of the Zephyrian Empire sat in the first row of defendants, his once proud crystalline form now dulled by defeat and fear. Beside him, Mind Node Prime of the Collective flickered with unstable thoughts, its hive consciousness fractured by human psychological warfare. The leaders of 6 other Council species filled the remaining seats, all of them waiting to hear the charges that would determine their fate. You stand accused of genocide, Admiral Chen announced, her voice echoing through the courtroom. The systematic murder of 4.7 billion human civilians. You stand accused of war crimes, of targeting non-combatants and refugee ships. You stand accused of conspiracy to commit xenocide against the entire human species. Dr. Marcus Webb, now bearing the title of Secretary of Galactic Affairs, read from a datapad containing the evidence gathered during 6 months of warfare. The tribunal has reviewed intercepted communications, recorded orders, and testimony from survivors. The evidence is overwhelming and undeniable. Behind the defendants, holographic displays showed images that made even the most hardened observers uncomfortable. Burning human colonies, ships full of refugees destroyed without warning, children's toys floating in the wreckage of civilian vessels. You did this because you were afraid, Chen continued, walking slowly in front of the defendants, afraid that humanity was becoming too strong, too independent, afraid that we would challenge your control over the galaxy. You were right to be afraid, but for the wrong reasons. She stopped directly in front of Zextar, staring down at the alien leader who had ordered the attack on human colonies. You weren't afraid of what we were. You were afraid of what you would force us to become. The trial had been broadcast throughout the galaxy, allowing every species to witness the humiliation of their former masters. On thousands of worlds, alien populations watched as the council leadership was reduced to criminals awaiting judgment. General Morrison, the highest-ranking human military officer still alive after the war, stepped forward to address the courtroom. For 50 years, humanity tried to be your partners. We shared our knowledge, our culture, our friendship. We believed that we could build a peaceful future together. His voice grew harder as he continued. You repaid our friendship with treachery. You repaid our trust with genocide. You forced us to become something we never wanted to be, your conquerors. The evidence phase of the trial had taken 3 days. Human prosecutors had presented recordings of council meetings where the genocide had been planned, communications between fleet commanders during the attacks, and testimony from the few human survivors who had been rescued from council prison ships. But the most damning evidence had come from the council's own records. Documents recovered during the war showed that the attack on human colonies had been planned for years, waiting only for an excuse to be implemented. The supposed plague that had justified the genocide had been completely fictional. Mind Node Prime flickered with electronic distress as it tried to speak. The collective believed humans posed an existential threat to galactic stability. You were right, Admiral Chen replied coldly. We do pose a threat to your kind of stability. The stability of tyrants ruling over slaves. The stability of the strong crushing the weak. You were right to fear us because we are everything you claim to be but never were. She activated a holographic display showing the current state of the galaxy, where once the Council's territory had been marked in the colors of its member species. Now everything was marked in human blue. The war is over, Chen announced to the courtroom and the billions watching throughout space. Council military forces have been completely destroyed or surrendered. Your governments have submitted to human authority. Your populations have accepted our protection. The transformation had been remarkably swift. Once it became clear that the Council could not protect its member worlds from human retaliation. Planet after planet had requested separate peace agreements. Some had surrendered immediately upon seeing human ships appear in their systems. Others had held out until human forces demonstrated their ability to strike any target at will. Ambassador Park stepped forward to address the court. For 6 months she had been coordinating the political aspects of humanity's takeover, negotiating with alien governments and establishing the framework for the new galactic order. The defendants ask for mercy, Park said, glancing at the defense attorneys that human law required even war criminals to have. They claimed that their actions were motivated by fear, that they were only trying to protect their species from a perceived threat. She paused, looking directly at each of the defendants in turn. But mercy is something you extend to enemies who show remorse. Mercy is something you offer to those who acknowledge their crimes and seek forgiveness. You have shown neither remorse nor acknowledgement. You continue to claim that genocide was justified. It was true. Throughout the trial, not one of the council leaders had expressed regret for the billions of humans they had murdered. They maintained that their actions had been necessary to preserve galactic peace, that humanity had been too dangerous to be allowed to continue existing. Admiral Chen returned to her position in front of the defendants. The tribunal finds all defendants guilty on all charges. The evidence is clear, the testimony is conclusive, and your own words condemn you. She paused, allowing the weight of those words to settle over the courtroom. However, this tribunal is not here merely to assign guilt. We are here to determine what kind of galaxy we will build from the ashes of your empire. The sentencing phase was where humanity would reveal its true nature to the watching galaxy. Every species was wondering what the new human rulers would do with their defeated enemies. Would they show the same mercy that the Council had shown to human children? The leaders of the Galactic Council are hereby sentenced to life imprisonment, Chen announced. You will spend the rest of your natural lives in custody, where you will have the opportunity to contemplate the consequences of your choices. There was audible surprise throughout the courtroom. Many observers had expected human justice to be far harsher. The council had committed genocide, after all. By the standards of their own laws, they deserved execution. Some may wonder why we do not simply execute you, Chen continued, addressing the defendants directly. The answer is simple: we are not you. We do not murder helpless prisoners. We do not exterminate entire species because we fear them. That is the difference between humanity and the council. Dr. Webb stepped forward to address the broader implications of the ruling. This tribunal sends a message to every species in the galaxy. Under human rule, justice will be fair but absolute. Crimes will be punished, but punishment will fit the crime. We will not become the monsters you forced us to pretend to be. The political restructuring had already begun throughout former council space. Human administrators were working with local governments to establish new constitutions based on human principles. Individual rights, representative democracy, and protection for minority populations. But the most significant change was in the nature of galactic military forces. The Council's vast fleets had been completely dismantled. In their place, human vessels patrolled space, ensuring that no world could again threaten its neighbors. General Kim addressed the final aspect of the new order. Human observers will be stationed on every world to ensure compliance with galactic law. Our ships will patrol all space lanes to protect civilian traffic. Our soldiers will intervene to prevent conflicts before they begin. The terms were non-negotiable. Alien military forces would be limited to system defense only. Interstellar warfare was now forbidden under penalty of human intervention. Any species that threatened others would face the same fate as the Council. You wanted to see what humanity would become when threatened, Admiral Chen said in her closing statement. You forced us to evolve beyond your worst nightmares. You made us into the apex predators of this galaxy. She looked around the courtroom, her gaze taking in the representatives of dozens of species who had come to witness the end of the old order. But you also gave us the opportunity to become something better than what we were. You forced us to unite, to grow, to become strong enough to protect not just ourselves but every species in the galaxy. In trying to destroy us, you created your successors. The trial concluded with the reading of the new Galactic Constitution, a document that would govern all intelligent life in known space. It guaranteed basic rights for all sentient beings, established procedures for peaceful resolution of conflicts, and created a framework for interstellar cooperation under human leadership. As the council leaders were led away to their imprisonment, Admiral Chen stood at the observation deck of the Justice looking out at the stars.